All right, everybody settle in. If you want, there is some coffee, tea, water out there in the lobby to get yourselves comfortable. And there's good food in the back.
Yes, there is.
I can't vouch for how healthy it is, but it's for sure good for the soul. Right? Richard, do you agree?
I agree. And it's extra healthy because it's in here.
And as long as you do it over here, it all depends where you're doing
And
it.
about the Kabbalah, it's got to be healthy.
If you're sitting on the couch watching Netflix, this would be a terrible idea. But here in the class, you all get a pass. Okay. Dear friends, good evening, good evening. We are rocking on over here with Kabbalah of Meaning. Kabbalah of Meaning, we're doing class number 2, title, very mysterious name over here. To make or not to make meaning. And dear friends, we're going to begin with, in your books on page 36. And I'll put it up here on the slide as well. All right, here's what I'm going to ask of all of you. Here we have two things on the screen and in your books. My question for you is, what are their functions? Can you try to give a guess, educated guess, whatever you want? Try to use your imagination. What is going on over here? We need to get some.
A nutcracker.
What was that? What was that, Yulia?
Nutcracker on the right.
A nutcracker? Okay. I'm not confirming or not. We're taking answers now. This looks like a tool.
A tool to put a hole through something.
A tool to put a hole through something.
Some sort of press.
It's maybe a press.
Yeah.
And something to hang on.
Maybe to hang bananas on.
That's what I
Hang bananas? And then what's this over there?
Hang the bananas on there.
I think the last one is just purely decorative.
Purely decorative. No function?
I mean, it could be a candle holder, but yeah.
You're saying it's mysterious, huh?
An olive press.
Which one?
To the right.
This one's an olive press. Well, what's this one? We got a few guesses for that. What's this one over here?
The banana hole.
If you saw this on Amazon on sale on Prime Day, 70% off, would you buy it?
No.
Yeah.
What's a good deal? What?
$70 off, I'm buying.
You're buying it, right? We'll figure out do with it later. All right.
Ladies, a great deal if they give you 100% off. That would be a great deal.
So they say the way to save 100% on Prime Day is just don't buy it. 100% off.
100% off.
All right. By the way, that had nothing to do with today's class. But just got to shake ourselves up, no?
Yeah.
Wake ourselves up for a big class coming up. All right. We will. Hey, hello, Anna. Come on in. How you doing? Okay. We are going along over here. Beginning today's topic, we'll circle back to this soon. All right? Last week, we started off our class. We introduced one of the books of the Torah. It's called Kohelet, Ecclesiastes. And Ecclesiastes is a book written by King Solomon, where he reflects on life, the meaning of life, the purpose of life, what's going on with life. And we started getting a little bit of a feel of, it's a very sobering book. It's a big reality check, the book. And I want to continue reading with you a little bit more. There is I just want to share that today's class is an extremely fundamental class. Last week was a very important class. We spoke about that to truly feel meaning in life day to day. You need to be deeply rooted, just like a tree is rooted in your roots and your humanity. You need to be deeply aligned with who you are, and that is the only way to feel internally healthy and that you're having meaning day to day. Today, we have an extremely important principle. The rest of the course is being built on today's class. So we're building upon what we said last week, but today is the big game changer. Today's whole class is going to be one topic. We need to discuss one topic for the next hour and a half or so. All right? Like they say the joke, there's once two Jews sitting on a park bench, and they were each bragging to each other how great their rabbi is. So one guy says, my rabbi, he's so great, he could speak about any topic for 1 hour. He says, my rabbi is so great, he could speak for 2 hours on no topic. So, it is true. Some people are very talented at that. Okay, today we have one topic and one topic only, but I don't want to spoil it for you. I got to unveil it. We got to set this up over here. You ready? There is an attitude in the world today which they even put on the back of kids' cereal boxes. I once saw this in the back of one of the post boxes of cereal. And I was actually thinking about it, like, what's the idea that this is the values that we're sharing with our children? And, the older version of it, there's an older version, a little bit of a slightly newer version of it. It's called YOLO. You ever heard of that one? YOLO, which means what? You only live once, which implies what?
Oh.
The philosophy of YOLO is, look, you're going to die anyways. You only live once.
Right.
And so why live a miserable life? You may as well live it up. Just do it crazy, live crazy, do whatever you want, have fun. You know, basically do whatever you can while you're still able to. Okay, like a very, take risks. Just be crazy. Throw off all just be carefree. The more modern version of it is called bucket list. You have a bucket list, which sounds a lot more, it doesn't sound as sinister. It doesn't sound as, but it's the same thing. What does bucket mean?
Before you kick the bucket.
Before you kick the bucket. All right, this is what I'm doing before I go. Which is, it's the same attitude of basically, I'm here today, gone tomorrow, nothing is really important, just live it up in the moment. That's the YOLO attitude. King Solomon speaks about this. King Solomon writes Proverbs. It seems that he wrote it towards the end of his life. He's reflecting back on life. And he discusses this attitude of just being carefree, not having any real regards for anything real in life, and even death, having a very flippant attitude that, when I die, it doesn't matter, nothing matters. Like they say, there's once a funeral. A teenage boy is there with his family. And, they're waiting around for the funeral to start. And the kid goes over to the director of the funeral home and says, hey, what's the Wi-Fi password? And the funeral director looks at him with such disgust and says, some respect for the dead. She says, is that all lowercase? Right? No regard, no respect. Okay, but let's read what King Solomon says. King Solomon is reflecting on a lifestyle, and it's very interesting. Is he describing this as what he personally went through, or is he rather philosophizing, imagining a life like this? Let's begin reading text 1a from King Solomon. We're continuing the words of Kohelet, of Ecclesiastes. It's in your books, and we're going to begin text 1a, page 38. Alan, would you like to give us a read? Text 1a, page 38. Here we go.
I amassed great wealth. I built homes, planted vineyards. I designed gardens and orchards filled with every kind of fruit tree. I made reservoirs to water and plant groves of trees. I acquired male and female servants and had more cattle, herds, and flock than went before me in Jerusalem. Plucked silver and gold and the treasure of kings and prophets. I brought in male and female singing, every luxury people could desire, chest and chest of it. Came more than anyone who came before me in Jerusalem. I fell in my wisdom. I didn't hold back anything my eyes wanted. Did not deny myself any pleasure. I took joy in everything. I achieved, but in the end, the joy was all I really got from it. I look back at all I worked for, everything I built and gained, and it was all pointless, just changing the wind. Nothing truly lasts like this.
King Solomon is saying a truism which at some point of life can hit us in the like a ton of bricks, which is you can chase pleasures. You can chase accomplishments day in, day out. And at some point, it doesn't actually do it for you. And say, everything that I was looking for, it was pointless. Chasing the wind, nothing truly lasting under the sun. What Alan is saying is, come on, appreciate what you have, but there's something much, much deeper over here. There's something very, very deep over here, which is, what are you searching for in life? We, naturally, the way our human instincts and impulse works is that we love pleasure. We love things that give us a certain emotional high. So we chase after it. What gives me pleasure? What seems enjoyable? Hello, how's it going? No, don't worry, look what we got over here. We got to get you another chair. How are we doing, Mark? Welcome on board. Take something to eat while you're at it. Take something to eat. It's very healthy. No. What's going on, Lisa? All's good?
Yes.
All right.
Carb or are they dairy?
They're dairy.
Well, well, that's not gonna help me.
No. Okay. There's something called in modern psychology. It's a phrase coined only within the last few decades called the hedonic treadmill. What's the hedonic treadmill? You ever heard about this? I spoke about this in the past. The hedonic treadmill, well, what's a treadmill, right? The stuff that we hang our shirts and pants on, right? It's a very useful piece of furniture for that. You ever saw that meme? A guy's going shopping for a treadmill. He says, this one is really great, extra expensive. It's got even more space. It's got extra space. You could put even more shirts on it. All right. Hedonic treadmill is like this. The concept of a treadmill is that you're running forward, but really the treadmill brings you right back to the same place. That's the concept of a treadmill. The hedonic treadmill, says modern psychology, they've discovered that when people are running forward with hedonism, looking for pleasures, actually the human condition regulates the person to adapt back to where they were before. It's part of our survival instinct that we're always very well regulated. We always adapt back to a certain equilibrium, which means like this. And we can all relate to this. We always think, oh, if only I had this, a nicer car, and if I was able to buy this piece of clothing and that, one more thing, and then I'll be happy. What happens? Doesn't do it. There was even a study done. I once read this, so fascinating, that they've done a whole study. They've been researching people's brain activities when they go out to a restaurant. When people go out to a restaurant, by the time you pay your bill, all those pleasure neurons that were firing off when you got the good food and the ambiance, by the time you pay your bill, they're all gone. Which means whatever pleasure you were looking for going in, I want really good food and I can't wait till I can order this thing, it's gone by the time you actually have to dish out the cash for it. It's unbelievable. That's how fleeting it is. What King Solomon says is, he's either saying that I've actually tried it this way, or he's illustrating a lifestyle where somebody has the means to do it all. Nothing is beyond his reach. Nothing's beyond the budget. And he goes and goes and goes. Whatever you want. And at the end of the day, he says, what did I gain from this? It just didn't do it for me. That's the hedonic treadmill. Actually, in the Hebrew, it's actually very, very interesting. The translation of here, if you look at the last line of this text, says, just chasing the wind. You saw that? Just chasing the wind. The Hebrew words is called, in Hebrew, it's ru'ut ruach, which, this is the problem with translations. Not always do they capture the full scope of a word. Ru'ut ruach could mean chasing the wind. It could also mean it crushes the wind, or spirit. It's spirit crushing, soul crushing. That's what it is. It could be soul crushing. It could be soul crushing to realize I've invested all this time, energy, human resources, attention, life towards running at these things, and what am I left with? I'm not left with that much, right? Like with this, the thing you could buy in all the, whenever you go to these vacation places, they always sell a T-shirt that says, I went to the Grand Canyon and all I got was this lousy T-shirt, right? What are you left with? All you're left with it. There is something that gets pointless. I'm chasing after all these things, but is this what it's all about? Is this really what it's all about? I actually have a friend of mine, without getting into details, a few years ago I saw him, and I saw that he made a major life change. I was like, really surprised. He just picked himself up, he moved. He changed his whole life trajectory. And I asked him what happened. I'll tell you, he became a Chabad rabbi. But he did it after a few years of being a very successful businessman. I was wondering, Moshe, you're here, He moved down to Hicktown in the middle of nowhere, somewhere in the south, like a tiny Jewish community. And he told me honestly what happened. He says, he went into contracting. He had a very niche type of building expertise with his team. And he made it very successful very quick. And he was getting contracts all over the East Coast. And that's it. It was like amazing. And at some point, very quickly, he realized, one second, is this life now? This is my life now? I made it to the top. I'm really happy. I'm making an amazing income. And now I just do this for the rest of my life. And then one day I just drop dead. Like, this is it. And he's like, that's it. This can't be what my life is. And he dropped the business like a hot and dedicated his life to the Jewish people. Like, talk about a moment of realization that, there's something more to this. This is the question we're looking for over here.
I was saying, he had an epiphany.
That's an unbelievable epiphany. I wish I had that. Maybe I'll do something with my life, no? A little bit more. Okay, we're trying. Doug, yes.
He says everything I work for, hopefully work to have a family and grandchildren. And if that doesn't mean anything, you might as well drop dead. My whole life's about my family.
Okay.
It's not all pointless. Family is everything.
Let's, we have to learn from what he's teaching us. Think about it. It's a long text. If you want, you can read the whole Ecclesiastes.
Okay.
Read it with commentary. But we have to understand what he's talking to. Let's read text number 3, Doug. Text 3, page 43. This is from one time, before you read it. This is from the famous Russian author Leo Tolstoy. How do you say it in real Russian, Yulia? Help me. Tolstoy. You have to say, I don't know how to say it. Right? Not Tolstoy, right? Like an American.
Lev.
All right. Lev. It's also Lev. It's not Leo. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Wait, I want to hear her say it again.
Her say it again?
Yeah.
You got to pay her.
Donation to Jewish Family Service, we do it.
There you go.
Lev Tolstoy.
Tolstoy. Okay.
Lev, by the way, it's Levy, you know, that's why he's...
He wasn't Jewish though, no?
No, he's
He was.
Russian, but Lev, it's mean Levy.
Levi, like my name. Okay.
That's your name.
No, not Jewish. Yeah. No. This is a text he wrote, not by the end of his life, but much deeper into his life, and it's a very, very striking text. He was already very, very celebrated author. Let's read what he says over here. Doug, go for it.
Questions of meaning. 5 years ago, something very strange began to happen to me. At first, I experienced moments of perplexity and arrest of life, as though I did not know what to do or how to live. And I felt lost and became dejected. But this passed, and I went on living as before. Then these moments of perplexity began to recur oftener, and always in the same form. They were always expressed by the questions, what is for, what's it for, what does it lead to? I understood that it was no casual indisposition, but something very important, and if these questions constantly repeated themselves, they would have to be answered. And I tried to answer them. The questions seemed stupid, simple, childish questions, but as soon as I touched them and tried to solve them, I at once became convinced, 1, they are not childish and stupid, but the most important and profound of life's questions, and 2, that try as I would, I could not solve them. Before occupying myself with my Samaritan estate, the education of my son, or the writing of a book, I had to know why I was doing it. As long as I did not know why, I could do nothing and could not live. Amid the thoughts of estate management, which greatly occupied me at that time, the question would suddenly occur to me, quote, well, you have 6,000 how do you pronounce it?
Yes,
Yes, it is.
it's a measurement.
Okay, I got it. Of land in Samara government with 300 horses, and what next? I was quite disconcerted and did not know what to think. Or when considering my plans for the education of my children, I would say to myself, what for? Or when thinking of the fame my work would bring me, I said to myself, very well, you will be more famous than Gogol or Pushkin, or Shakespeare or Moliere, or than all the writers in the world. And what of it? I could find no reply at all.
Scary text. And the story goes that he seriously contemplated suicide because of this, just how deep these questions were within him. Which means like this. What I'm trying to get to is this big question. That we can be living lives. We can even be living meaningful lives, or lives that are filled with meaning day to day. We feel good about ourselves day to day. But they can still be nagging to something at our essence, that something's still missing. This is what King Solomon is trying to get to. King Solomon is trying to help guide us on a journey of self-discovery. What is really life? What is life really all about? It's not just a day-to-day we have meaning, not just day-to-day we're enjoying things. What is life really all about? And deep down, we all know that we really need that answer. That's what we're going for. Just by the way, an interesting point, just want to point it out. If anybody else but King Solomon would write this story, I had all the... money doesn't matter. In other words, if somebody who doesn't have money says money doesn't matter, do you take him seriously? It's harder, right? It's a lot more sincere when it's who? When it's King Solomon. Somebody he was an unbelievably not just wealthy, he was a celebrated person. I just want to show you over here. King Solomon, just to point out to you, he reigned from 863 to 797 before the Common Era. This was somebody who was unbelievably successful in his personal life, in his leadership life, everything. He brought unprecedented peace to the land of Israel. These were the golden days of Jewish history. There was never a time as great for the Jewish people. Before King Solomon, never as great after King Solomon. Till today. He fortified the infrastructure, the trade and military of the land of Israel. Jerusalem became the center of the universe, a world power. He composed thousands of proverbs and songs, very prolific. He constructed the first holy temple, Solomon's temple. But he's still telling us there's still something deeper for life. And that's what he's trying to bring us to. That we have to realize there's still something more. What is that more? Dear friends, that's what we're going for. Last week was good. We spoke about the search for meaning, but there's something much deeper, even more critical, that needs to be part of our life package for the Kabbalah of meaning, living a meaningful life. The meaning needs to be rooted in something even deeper. What is that? Here we go. You ready? I want to go back about 2,400 years ago, 350 years before the Common Era. And there's a famous event in Jewish history, which we celebrate every single year in the Jewish calendar. This is ancient Persia, the story of Purim. And the story basically is that there was this king, Persian king, his name was Ahasuerus, and he assassinated his wife for not showing up to his royal party. The fine print is that he wanted her to show up nude. All right, but that's details. All right, she's dead, and he needs a new queen. Persia needs a new queen. So he puts on a beauty pageant by force, not voluntary. All beautiful women of Persia need to show up to the pageant, enforced. A Jewish woman by the name of Esther is forcibly pulled into the pageant, and she actually wins the election. No, not an election. Not democratic. She wins. She becomes the queen of Esther. A Jewish woman becomes the queen of Persia. Her uncle Mordechai, the leading sage of the Jewish people, tells her, keep your Jewish identity under wraps. Don't let anybody in the palace know of your Jewish identity. And that is the story. A few years later, a drama unfolds. There's a terrible anti-Semite. His name is Haman, and Haman, boo, there we go. I was waiting for something. He pays off the king. He bribes the king to give him absolute authority to pass a decree, a royal decree, that it's written into law that every single Jew, man, woman, and child needs to be murdered on one single day. Not only that, and this was the worst genocide, potential genocide, thank God not, but potential genocide that the Jewish people ever faced in history. This was absolutely the worst. It never got as bad as this. Nobody ever had as much power as Haman did in that moment. Terrible time for the Jewish people. Haman, his plot was to keep this law under wraps. Nobody should know about it until the very last minute, and the Jews will have no way to get out of it. And like this, he would successfully have every single Jew in the largest empire that existed in those times on the planet. The Persian Empire is going to murder every single Jew within 24 hours. Luckily, there was a guy, his name was Snowden. He did some WikiLeaks. And, right, is that his name? Edward Snowden, right? Yeah. So that happened then too. And this top secret law got out. And the Jewish leader at the time, Mordechai, gets his hands on this top secret, under gag order, classified document that says that in a year from now, all the Jews are going to be killed. And he starts a dialogue undercover with a secret courier between him and his niece Esther, who's in the palace, the queen, about trying to stop it. And he appeals to Esther you're the queen, right? We got the right man or the right woman in the right place in the right time. Do your thing. Speak to your husband, the king, and let's get this thing over with. That's the setup. Now let's read a little bit in the book of Esther. Let's read the story. What's your name? Gail, would you like to read text 4a on page 46? Not the Hebrew, just English.
Mordecai gave Hatshepsut,
So the name is Hatach. He was the courier.
a copy of the written decree that had been circulated in
Shushan.
Thank you, instructing him to show it to Esther and to urge her to go before the king, to plead with him and beg for the lives of her people.
Hatach.
Hatach went and delivered Mordecai's message to Esther, okay? Esther then said to attack and instructed him to relay her words to Mordecai. All the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces know that anyone, man or woman, who enters the king's inner court without being summoned is subject to death, unless the king extends his golden scepter, granting permission to live. And I have not been summoned to the king in 30 days. Esther's message was conveyed to Mordecai. Mordecai sent back his reply to Esther. Don't imagine that you, of all Jews, will escape just because you're in the palace. If you remain silent at this moment, relief and deliverance will come for the Jews from another source, but you and your father's house will perish.
Okay. Very, very grave dialogue that's happening over here. Esther saying, I'd love to do it, but listen, there's a law in Persia. It's not that the king could put you to death. If you appear in front of the king, default setting is you're being put to death. Unless the king puts out his golden scepter. It was a very scary thing to just make a unannounced or an uninvited appearance before the king Ahasuerus. That was the king's name, Ahasuerus. She says, listen, the king has not called me in for more than 30 days, which obviously means that the king is not feeling much for me these days. So I'm putting myself in a very scary position if I just walk into the king. Right? This is the health of marriages back in the day. This is how it worked. Very, very poor communication skills over here. Okay, that's what it was. She says, if I go, chances are I'm probably going to be dying from that failed attempt. Okay, what does Mordecai say? Mordecai, number one, he says a very interesting truth, which is true for all Jewish history. Don't think that you, of all Jews, will escape just because you're in the palace. You think you're a privileged Jew. You think that when anti-Semitism is rampant, when you think that Jews' lives are on the line, but you cozy up to authority, you think you'll be safe. That's not the way it works. It's not the way it works, which is a truth from throughout Jewish history. It's a very sad part of Jewish history. There are certain Jews who thought that they could find, align with the Nazis, align with the communists in Soviet Russia, and that you'll be saved. It never worked. It's actually very interesting. I'll maybe mention this a little bit later. But with the fall of communism, the KGB archives was made public. And today especially, they're a lot more public record. It's much easier to find access to it. So we've discovered today, not me, but the historians out there have discovered. So there was a very sad part of Jewish history, a very sad chapter, is how, by the Bolshevik Revolution, by the Communist Revolution in the former Soviet Union, there was an attempt to uproot all religious activity. The whole idea of religion was considered a very serious threat to the vision of communism, and they wanted to totally root out the evil of religion by any means possible. And they went and very violently wanted to shut down any Jewish religious activity. The very sad part is that there was something called the Yevsektia, which was the Jewish Communist Party. The Jews who decided to pledge loyalty to Lenin and to Stalin more than to their Jewish brothers and sisters. And they became a terrible thorn for the Jewish people. The members of the Yevsektia themselves would go and spy on the Jewish community and then go back to the KGB. And they would lead the KGB midnight raids to arrest Jews and murder them and throw them in the camps and the gulags. Very terrible thing. But today we know that all those Jews who thought they would save themselves by aligning with the Soviets, guess what happened to all of them? They not a single one made it out alive. Every single one of them, as soon as the Soviets felt that they're done with them, that you've done your part now, they were all arrested, shot, sent to the camps. There's nothing is left of them. Maybe a handful even managed to survive from the whole Jewish party. So what he's saying is, Esther, you think you're safe, you're not safe. But then he says the Jewish people will get saved right now. But you and your father's house will perish. What does he mean by you and your father's house will perish? What he's basically saying is, the Jewish people are going to be saved. Mordecai was a firm believer in the eternity of the Jewish people. Jewish people are not going anywhere. We're going to survive through whatever comes our way, as we've seen. But for the singular Jew, who knows? How do you know you're saving yourself? what he's telling her is, listen, let's just do a, how's it called? A risk-benefit assessment? How do you call it? No, Yulia, help me out. Is that what it is? Risk-benefit? Risk-benefit assessment, right? Cost, risk. It's basically you have nothing to lose. The ship's going down unless we do something drastic. So you're telling me you're maybe going to get killed? You're the one in the position, do it. And he's also telling her the Jewish people will get saved. Maybe it will be through you. Maybe do it. Okay. This is one argument. He's trying to encourage her. He's trying to motivate her that there's a benefit over here. And there's a risk, there's a benefit. Make a good choice. That's one argument. Sounds like a good argument? But then Mordechai adds on another little point. Would you like to read? What's your name? Rebecca, you want to give us a read?
Yeah.
A little line. This is a very critical line. Text 4b on page 47. This is the direct continuation.
Esther said to
No. 4b.
Oh. And who knows, perhaps you became queen for just such a time as this.
Ooh, this is very, very different. Before he's saying, listen, it's worth it for you. It's not worth the risk not to do it. Now Mordechai is already giving a whole different argument, which is 1 second. Now Mordechai is actually speaking to Esther's whole identity. Esther, think about it. You were born at this time, in this place, and God has granted you with tremendous beauty and charm. And you ended up living in the time, you were forced into the pageant, and you ended up winning, a Jewish woman living as a queen of Persia. Maybe this is your destiny. Maybe this is your calling. Maybe this is the very reason why you are here. I wanna just tease out with you a little bit the two arguments over here. The first argument is that this is what's going to be beneficial to you. This is actually a way you could save yourself, maybe. And if you don't do this, then you may die either way. That's the first argument, which is this could work. Benefit. The second argument is already very, very different. That this is maybe the whole purpose for what you're doing over here. How does Esther respond to this? Rebecca, you could continue. Text 4c, page 47.
Esther said to reply to Mordecai, go gather all the Jews who are found in Shushan and fast for me. Do not eat and do not drink for 3 days, night and day. I too, along with my maidens, will fast likewise. And then I will go to the king, though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish.
So let's just think about what Esther's saying over here. She's telling Mordechai, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go to the king. But she says the Jews should pray for me, fast, pray to God. And then she says, if I perish, if I have to perish because of this, I will perish. Okay. Let's just think about it. Which one of Mordechai's arguments is Esther working with? Is she saying, yes, okay, I understand that maybe this is the best strategic move for me to make, and this is a good idea for me to do? Is that what she's responding to? Or is she responding to the idea, you know what, this is your destiny? Her tone of, you know what, I'm willing to do this, even if it comes with a lot of pain, and even if, who knows what happens. This is what really spoke to her. You see this. The second argument of Mordechai is what she's running with. That this is actually the purpose of what you're doing over here. Dear friends, the first argument was very, very subjective, which is you as a human being could make a risk-benefit analysis, assessment, how much risk is involved, what are the benefits, what could go wrong either way. That's okay. That's very, very much about how you process things, what conclusion you come to. That was one thing. Mordechai could give her, how do you feel about this? Maybe you could do something, even meaning, wouldn't it be so meaningful if Esther would save all the Jewish people? Like, wow, you could be the one to save the Jewish people. That'd be very, very meaningful, no? That's a story to tell, no? That's subjective. I find this meaningful. Purpose. Saying you are here in this place, in this time, with these opportunities for this reason. That is always something extremely objective. It's not about how you find this, how you feel about it, how you process it. Do you like it? Do you not like it? This is already saying there's a certain objectivity. Purpose is objective. And these are the two words that I want to discuss right now. Generally, we think in the English language, meaning and purpose are somewhat of synonyms, no? Interchangeable terms. Yeah, there's meaning, there's purpose. I want to live a meaningful life. I want to live a purposeful life. I want to bring in the story of Purim to show this difference in the way Mordechai is speaking to us with two different arguments, to bring out the idea that these two are not the same. They are very different arguments. You can't even, the whole sentence changes if you're speaking about meaning versus when you're speaking about purpose. What I want to share with you today is that the search for meaning is a good step one, but it's not where it's at. Zugesund. It's good old Yiddish. Zugesund. Bless you. Judaism is really teaching us that as much as we want to live meaningful lives, where it's really at is living a purposeful life. And that is a very profound difference. That difference takes us right back over here. What's the difference between meaning and purpose, and why is the search for purpose really where it's at? In other words, as much as we need to have meaning in our lives, that meaning cannot be divorced from purpose, and it needs to only be built upon purpose. Okay, I just want to share with you. This tool is a tool designed to pit cherries. So you put a cherry in there, and you pit it.
Okay.
Okay, big reveal. You know what this is over here?
No.
Nothing. This was, we asked ChatGPT, you know what that is? AI, to just make us look, make some tool, but just make it look whatever you want. No purpose there. And this is what it gave to us. Okay. Now, here's my question. If I gave this to you as a gift,
White elephant.
what was that?
White elephant gift.
That's another
Nobody
gift.
needs it.
Nobody needs it. Could you find something good to do with it? Could you?
Yeah.
No imagination?
Nutcracker,
Re-gifted.
you know?
I could set my cell phone on it.
Yeah, come on. I can find something to do with it. I don't put my car keys here.
Can you hang
and put,
bananas?
what was that?
Hang bananas.
You can hang bananas on here.
Bananas, yeah.
I can do, I don't know.
How big is it?
See, here we go. Here we got a builder over here. ChatGPT did not tell me.
What are the dimensions?
What are the dimensions?
Oh, sure.
You could, theoretically, easily find a good purpose for it. It could even become a very important part of your life. You know, I rely on this tool every single day. I hang my banana on there. I don't know, you know. I put my car keys on here. So, can each of these tools have meaning? Yes. Do both of these tools have purpose? Does this tool have a purpose? Yes. What does purpose mean?
Helping.
Built for something.
Built for something. Built for something. Here I want to teach you the critical difference between meaning and purpose. And like that, when we speak about a meaningful life versus a purposeful life, we should realize that these are two totally different things. I want to share with you three things. Okay. Three differences between meaning and purpose. The first one is what comes first. By meaning, the thing comes first, and then the meaning comes second. What's first, what's second? Like Dr. Seuss, right? Thing number one, thing number two. Right? What's thing number one? What's thing number two in the equation? Meaning is we have something here. How do we make it meaningful? Could I make it meaningful? By purpose, the purpose comes first and then comes the thing. In other words, whoever invented this wonderful tool, highly recommended to go on Amazon and buy yourselves a cherry pitter. Whoever made this tool, what came first? Did he first make the tool and then say, hey, what do you think we could make with such a wonderful tool? Is that what he did? Or did he say, no, I have a vision, I have an idea, I have a purpose, and I'm going to build a thing around my purpose. It's going to be built with the vision of the purpose. So what comes first? First the purpose, then the thing. Meaning is the other way around. Meaning is I've got a tool. What am I going to do with it? Oh, I found the meaning for it. Instead of me throwing it in the garbage, now it actually has some meaning in my life. Has some meaning over here. It's like the difference of moving into a house or building a house. I remember when we walked into our house that we currently live in. It was a nice little experience. And how do we make every part of this house meaningful? There's some parts of my house that's still not so meaningful, right? It's like dead space. We don't really know what to do with it yet. Maybe if we had somebody who was a little bit creative, they could come in and tell us how to make it more meaningful. What came first, the meaning or the space? Well, I don't know. I have space. I have rooms. I don't know what to do with all these rooms. Oh, all of a sudden I find out what to do with this room, right? Versus you build a house. What happens first? Do you first build rooms and then sit down and figure out what am I going to do with all these rooms? Maybe some people do that, right? But usually you're like, okay, this is my lifestyle, this is my family size, this is my interest. I play guitar, so I got to have a room where I can play guitar, and it needs to be far away from everybody else because everybody doesn't like it when I play it at night. I'm waking up. You have a purpose, you have a vision. I have stuff that you build around there. This is a very critical thing. When we speak about living a meaningful life, that implies that I exist. I'm here. Why am I here? I don't know. I'll try to figure it out. I'll try to make my life meaningful. I exist. By meaning, I exist comes first. I exist. I don't know why I exist. I don't know if there's a why. I want to try to find meaning to it. Purpose implies no. There is a purpose. Then came me. I was brought into being for a purpose. So, asking the question, do I have meaning, is a very different question than saying, do I have a purpose? And that brings me to number 2. So number 1 is that meaning comes second. First is you, then meaning. By purpose, it's the purpose that comes first, and then you come second. And that brings us to distinction number 2. Meaning is a very personal and subjective experience. Who gets to determine if I had meaning in my day? That's me. I get to plan it. I wake up, I say, how am I going to make my day meaningful? And then I go and do it, and then I reflect. How was my day? Did I think that was meaningful? Or do you say, nah, that was a pretty trashy day, not so meaningful? I don't know. It's all about, right? It's meaning is basically a question that we ask ourselves. We get to determine, I exist, I'm living today, and then I try and make it a meaningful day. What do I feel about it? Do I think it was meaningful? Do I feel meaningful about my day today? Purpose. Who gets to determine? Who gets to determine if your life, if your day was purposeful? Who gets to answer that question? It's different. I don't know. Meaning is a personal feeling. By purpose, we don't even ask the question, how can I make my life more, we can say, how can I make my life more meaningful? But it's a different question. You can't ask, how can I make my life more purposeful? It's the wrong word. Purposeful means there's a purpose. And then you came into being because of that purpose. A purpose is objective, which means like this. Let's say I buy this thing, and I use it for a totally different purpose. I'll use it to make holes in the belt. I'll run my belt along here, and I'll smash it, I'll make holes in my leather belt. Could I do that?
Okay, it's not sharp.
It's not going to work. It's not going to work. But okay, I don't know. I'll use something with it. I don't know. I use it as a fidget toy. Am I making it meaningful?
Yes.
But is it being used for its purpose? No. So, purpose is very, very objectively singular. You could use it for something else. And if you find that meaningful, good, right, knock yourself out. That's wonderful. But purpose is very, you don't get to answer if it's purpose, if this is the purpose. It's about what was this created to be. Imagine you give a guy, you bring somebody from 700 years ago, time machine, you bring him back into today, and with zero context, he doesn't see the modern world, doesn't know nothing, you sit him in a car. You say, your job to figure out what to do with this thing. What does this thing do? The only thing I'm going to tell you is if you put in the key, turn it, and that's it. You got to figure out the rest out. He never once saw a road. He's never seen another car. He has no concept of something like this without a horse pulling it. he just may come to the conclusion by turning knobs and pushing buttons that this is a machine to blow air. Is that possible? So say, I figured it out. You guys are really, really advanced in 2025. You built this really massive machine for a very important function. You blow air. So if I ever get hot, I can come outside to my car. It's like that, I can get some air conditioning. That's sort of... Could you do that? Is that meaningful? Yeah. But is that the purpose? No. That's not what the car was created for. Meaning is subjective. Purpose is highly objective. It's beyond you.
So how do you know what your purpose is?
How do we know we have a purpose? But let's first establish the criteria. About 20 years ago, I remember seeing I think it was in German, a commercial. I saw it with English subtitles. Like a 45-second, I should try to look it up. I think it was German. The first frame of the video is like a family calling their grandpa. They're like, they're all huddled around the cell phone. They're saying, "Grandpa, did you get the gift we just sent you?" And the grandpa says, "Yes, I love it so much." And the video shifts to the grandpa holding an iPad. And he's holding on the left hand the iPad and his right hand a knife. And he uses it like as a cutting board. He puts a salad into a bowl, and then he's washing out of the sink. And he says, "It's so wonderful. It cuts so well. It washes so well." And you see him putting it in the dishwasher. And then it cuts back to the family in horror. Like you hear the noise of the water running. Like, what is going on? I think it was a commercial for like these online things that teach seniors how to use modern technology. This like right when the iPad came out. Did Grandpa make his iPad gift meaningful? He made it very meaningful. He needed a cutting board. This was a wonderful cutting board. He's like, how is he supposed to know there's anything better to use for it, right? He didn't even know there's a way to charge it. I don't know. But is that its purpose? Oh. So meaning is subjective, purpose is objective. Another little nuance over here is that meaning is, because it's so subjective, is also very, very, it's very fluctuating. What you find meaningful can change very rapidly. Last year I found doing this meaningful, but now a year later, I don't find that meaningful. And 2 years from now I can find something totally different meaningful. Whatever, it's a personal calling. What am I in the mood in? What do I like? If I find it meaningful, I'll do it. Tomorrow I don't find it meaningful, I'm not going to do it anymore. Versus purpose doesn't fluctuate, and it's a fact. It's timeless. This is here for this purpose. You could use it another way, you could use it for a different reason, and that's wonderful for you. Doesn't change what this is doing over here.
Can I?
Yeah, sure.
When we talk about the name of the course, I know this is going to sound a little bit out there, but the Kabbalah has a purpose. It doesn't mean it's not subjective. When you look at Kabbalah, you look at this, it goes through a process. And some people interpret it one way, and some people interpret it another way. But it does have a purpose. So shouldn't the course really be called the Kabbalah of Purpose?
You know what? Maybe you should hire a lawyer. We should all get a refund. Kabbalah purpose. What Kabbalah meaning?
Well, I don't know. There's a lot of meaning, but as you said, it's subjective.
Oh, it has to be purposeful, 100%. Or, in other words, we don't have anything against meaning, but the meaning should be built on purpose. So, dear friends, the big question is there meaning? Is there meaning to life? Does my life have does my life have purpose? Right. Does my life have meaning? Okay, that I could answer that question day by day. If I had a good day and I feel good about myself, I say I had a very meaningful day, very fulfilling, and I feel it was meaningful. I moved the needle. I did something good. But do I have a purpose? What's my purpose? Could I even answer that question? What even is my purpose? Oh, now we're starting to really get down to big questions. Let's read this next text over here. This is weird. I hate the word religion. Let's use the word Torah. This is where Judaism. This is where Torah, the critical role of Torah, comes in. Let's read text number 5 from the great, the one and only, the late Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks. Really, really wonderful guy. Where are we holding? Yulia, we're up to you. Text number 5, page 49.
Think about it. every function that was once performed by religion can now be done by something else. In other words, if you want to explain the world, you don't need Genesis, you have science. If you want to control the world, you don't need prayer, you have technology. If you want to prosper, you don't need necessarily seek God's blessing, you have the global economy. You want to control power, you no longer need prophets. You have liberal democracy in elections. If you are ill, you don't need a priest, you can go to a doctor. If you feel guilty, you don't have to confess. You can go to a psychotherapist instead. If you are depressed, you don't need faith. You can take a pill. If you still need salvation, you can go to today's cathedrals, the shopping centers of Britain, or as one American writer calls them, weapons of mass consumption. Religion seems superfluous, redundant, de trop. Why then does it survive? My answer is simple. Religion survives because it answers three questions that every reflective person must ask. Who am I? Why am I here? How then shall I live?
Who am I? Why am I here? How then shall I live? These are questions of purpose, not questions of meaning. Meaning is, I exist. I am here. Now, how do I make the best of my day now that I'm here? Purpose backs us up much more. It says, who am I in the first place? Why am I even here? How then shall I live? One of the keys, really the center of Kabbalah, at the really center of Kabbalah is that this world that we live in, God's creation, is not something distinct from God. It's not other than God. It's not separate from God. Judaism doesn't believe in Mother Nature, that there's a separate independent force running realities. There's a big God out there, and then we got nature, and then, every once in a while God can come in and split a sea. No. The essence of Kabbalah is that the divine purpose, the divine intent, divine energy is the very force that's breathing, pulsing every single moment of life. Kabbalah, religion, Judaism teaches us like this. If you believe that we are just an evolutionary mistake, right? That's one way to look at the world. You know, who knows how many billions of years ago, random stuff were floating in this endless environment, slowly got bound together, slowly recreated, and then, the apes, and then eventually us. And then eventually came me. I'm a biological mistake, right? Which means that. So, do I have purpose? No way. What purpose, right? You're just a random set of series goes in motions, and okay, now you're here. And there's no purpose. What purpose could you have then? Nothing. It's a mistake you're here. You don't matter. You know nothing. Whatever. Once you're here, try to make it meaningful. Or not. Doesn't really matter. Purpose means no. I used to not exist. There was a time before my existence, my birth, even before my conception. And purpose means that something, a God, actually felt a need, a critical need, saying there's a purpose. We need somebody to fill this role. And now we are going to conceive of another human being, and we're going to build it just like we built this tool with a very specific set of needs. It's built specifically for a purpose. We're going to build a person for a purpose. That's purpose. That's a whole different story. Purpose is a total game changer from meaning. They're not even close. Now, meaning is still important, but meaning needs to be built upon a life of purpose. Judaism is coming and saying, stop looking for meaning, or stop looking just for meaning, but more importantly, look for purpose. The Kabbalah of meaning is, stop looking for meaning. Look for purpose. There is a, one second, I'll get to you in a second. One more joke before we go on. You guys are getting good bang for your buck over here. I hope these are at least good jokes. This is what we pay the big money for, no? Right? Okay. There's a guy. It's late at night, one winter night. It's like a busy street. One guy is standing in the street corner, and he's looking and looking and looking, and he's moving away the snow, and he's looking and looking. So a few nice guys pass by and say, "Sir, what are you looking for?" He's like, "Listen, I dropped my wallet. I'm looking for my wallet, right? I need my wallet." So they say, "You know what? Let's help you out. It's a freezing cold night. I'll give you, you guys know the joke." Okay. I didn't say it in the morning class last week. Okay. So they say, okay, we'll give you guys a hand. They're searching. 20 minutes later, they're like, I don't know, we're just looking, we're not finding it over here. He says, are you sure you dropped it here? He's like, no, I dropped it half a block over. I'm like, what? What's up? So what are we doing over here then? She says, well, here's where the light is. You got to know where to look. You got to know where to dig. So stop looking for meaning. We're really looking for purpose. Let's read text number 6. Unbelievable text over here. Where are we holding? David.
Before I was created, during all the limitless time that came before, there was nothing in the world that required me. Had I been needed for any purpose or task, I would have existed earlier. The fact that I wasn't created until the specific moment is proof that there was no need for me until then. My existence was not necessary until it was. And when the time came, I was brought into the world to fulfill a role, to contribute something essential to the perfection of existence.
That's crazy, no? Can you imagine if this was our morning mantra? I'm very serious. Can you imagine if we sat down for a minute and said, 1 second. God decided I'm alive today, and that means that there's an objective purpose for my existence in general and here today. That is crazy. I have a lot of weight on my shoulders today. Right? I'm not a stupid AI tool that just ended up this way just because of some evolutionary mistakes. All right, some evolutionary process of billions of years. This is what I look like. No, I'm a highly sophisticated designed machine for a very specific purpose, and here I am. Right? It's a whole different story. Yes.
Rabbi, isn't this like what you were saying last week about birthday? Like you celebrate the birthday because God felt you were.
Oh, exactly. That's really what the power of birthday. What are we celebrating a birthday? Do you exist? Well, it's like that. You could pop at your stomach a little bit more and say, oh, look at me. I survived another year. No. It's celebrating the mission that God gave to us. A birthday is a very special day to reflect on the fact that God decided that my soul was necessary for this world, and God built me very uniquely with my set of skills and weaknesses and quirks and the good things about me and the negative things about me. Everything about me was it's like that I could be me. I could be the one to fulfill my purpose.
Yeah, but it's just like a cherry picker doesn't know what it was built for.
Oh, so how do you find your purpose?
Right.
Very, very good. No problem. We got to work on there. But this is what we're working towards. So meaning is highly subjective. There's 2 different questions. The selfish approach is, what do I find meaningful? And then let me go do that. But that's very selfish. The Jewish approach is, what is my purpose? And then it's not so much about, do I find it meaningful? Do I find it pleasurable? Is it too hard for me? Too easy for me? It's a whole different story. It also changes the inner joy of life, a sense of self-esteem, a sense of inner value. Meaning, you're always self-doubting yourself. I don't know, is this really meaningful for me? Maybe I could do something else which would be even more meaningful for me. It's a much more fleeting reality. And your self-esteem is very, very much in the hands of your mood that day. I'm feeling good about myself because then tomorrow I'm not feeling so good about myself for maybe even the stupidest reason, right? But purpose moves us away from, how do I feel about this? And say, you know what, am I on my game? Do I feel I'm living my purpose? It changes everything. It's not about me. It's about maybe a higher calling. I want to share with you a little story. I'll put it up over here on the screen. You ready? Let's play a little video. Here we go. Enjoy.
Leben besteht in der, hat alle Möglichkeiten, die der Ewigste uns gegeben, den bestimmten Menschen am Mann oder der Frau. Nutzt sie es in der Fuß der Moos und nutzt es in dem Essen, was am besten bei sich und bei anderen.
I was a shaliach to the United States of America on behalf of the Jewish Agency. I found it most important in my life that it's not the job for a Jewish woman. And I had accepted a position for my return to Israel to run a new startup business. And then I was asked to accompany a person of very, very major importance in Israel on a visit to visit the Rebbe. We arrive at 770 Eastern Parkway. The gentleman I'm with is taken in to see the Rebbe. And he comes out and he says to me, the Rebbe asks to speak to you. I walked into the Rebbe's office. There was an ahava in his eyes. He took my hand, held my hand, both of his hands, and he said to me, Avrum, bleibt im Chinuch.
Alle wir Zähne, als die Neshome soll jede sein Lemata zu dem Minyan, zu dem Adami Mitzvah, und an anderen Neshome ist jede Lemata und lebt auf, wie der Meimer Abel-Shem, 70, 80 Jahre, zu dem anderen Mitzvah oder zu dem anderen Fiur. Und als eine Tonne Jedei Admoi, kann sein, als das lieber der Fiur ist, der heraufgekommen dolle Lemata, auf seine ganze 70, 80 Jahre und alle übrigen Jahre in seinen Toffel, wie sehr.
Now he knew that earlier that week I had signed a contract to leave education. I have absolutely no idea. But the way in which this was done, the warmth with which the Rebbe's very presence touched you, maybe cancel the contract that I'd signed. And I've since then spent an additional 45 years working in Jewish education throughout the Jewish world, working with tens of thousands of young people every year, and eventually becoming the international head of Hill.
So this guy was, okay, I think he's retired by now. But he was a very, very influential person in the world of Jewish community work. I know the Jewish Federation here brought him down to town many times. He was the head of Hillel. He was a big, big macher. You know, it's very powerful. The Rebbe wasn't telling him, you know, you'll find it so much more meaningful. The Rebbe just said, you know, we need you in this position. We need you for education. This is what your life is for. It's a very, very different story. Purpose changes everything. I want to share with you another little story. Take a look over here. I'm going to share with you a picture of my wife Mushki's great uncle. You ready? This is him. This is a mugshot. I never told you guys about my family's criminal history, no? He's a gangster, yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I got to come clean. We were part of the Jewish mafia. Still are, actually. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Okay, what's this picture of? Before Chabad came to America and did work in the comfort of the United States of America, with the freedoms of the United States of America, we did it in communist Russia, where there were millions of Jews who needed desperate help to get a Jewish education, every single thing. And Chabad ran a very dangerous underground network that cost a tremendous amount of lives. He was arrested, I think, in 1951, 1952. He was working for many, many years. His name was Mendel Futterfass, young man. He was working for Jewish education. Anything the Jewish people needed. He was one of Chabad's secret operatives in the former Soviet Union. One of the big things he did right before he was caught is there was a little deal right after World War II between Germany and Russia, between Poland and Russia, that anybody who had a Polish passport was able to get out of Russia. Part of the geopolitics of the time. So he ran a whole network. He was part of a whole network that Chabad ran to forge Polish passports for Russian Jews. It's like that they could leave Russia.
What does Chabad mean, the word Chabad?
That's a very, very big question. It's a good question.
Because isn't Lubavitch is the town, right?
And Chabad is the name of the philosophy. Yeah. It stands for Chochmah Bina Das, three of the first Sefirot, talking about Kabbalah. But it's named after the philosophy of what Chabad stands for. He was arrested in 1952, young wife, young children. And this is his mugshot. They forced him to take off his yarmulke when they arrested him. And as far as he knew, when he was taking this picture, he knew that his days are numbered at this point. They sent him to the gulags to just work and eventually die. That was the plan. But miraculously, after about maybe 15 or 16 years, they kind of decided to just kick him out of the country. They let him go free, and he was out. And can you imagine? He was taken away from his wife and children. young wife, he has a black beard, young kids, toddlers. He comes back and they're teenagers, and he already has white in his beard. Crazy story. Really crazy.
Were they in America at that point?
They were in London. They already got out to London at that point. They lived in London. Okay. This is him years later when he was already a free man. He was an unbelievably charismatic person. Look at that beard. Beautiful, no? And this is, he would always sit around and talk, and he was filled with so much warmth of Judaism and of Hasidus, and he was a mentor. And after he passed away, they published a whole book filled with his stories and ideas. And they even published something in English. Before you could buy it on Amazon. It's called My Gulag Life, the book of his memories. Unbelievable personality. And, in our family, we're very proud of this man, right? We're proud of our criminal history. What was that?
I didn't say anything.
Okay. Somebody said, okay. I want to tell you a story about him. He shared a story. So he would share a lot of reflections and memories of being in the Gulag. One of the things he says is that the Gulag was filled with the how do you call it? The cream of the crop of Russia. All the people of top intelligence, the professors, the elites, they were powerful. They were considered a threat to the communist authority, and they were all just conveniently placed to rot away in Siberia. He says it was terrible. You look at these people; they were powerful, influential people in their heyday, and they just lost it all overnight. And now they're here, rotting away in this freezing cold weather, working backbreaking labor, doing nothing. Literally, they would just make it work for no good purpose. Just, real soul-crushing work. He said the number one cause of death was not overwork, was not the frost, was not malnutrition. It was literally depression of life. He says, we knew. Every Sunday morning they would wake you up and you had to go and report and show up for work. And it happened all the time that one of the guys in the barracks, he would just wake up and just not get out of bed. And we knew when we come back, he's going to be dead. We knew it, and it always happened. If you don't get out of bed in the morning, we come back in the afternoon and you're dead. You die literally, that you can't face life, and you just die. Your soul leaves you. It was terrible. He said people were very, very depressed. It wasn't just that it was hard, it was just depressing. But he always kept a certain inner joy. He was always joyful. Yeah. And at one point they said, Mendel, did you have such a bad life that you come here and you don't think it's so bad? What's wrong with you? Didn't you have a wife? Didn't you have children? Didn't you have stuff, a house, a home, business? He was actually a very successful businessman. That was why he was very successful in the underground. He was unbelievably savvy. He was very wealthy before he was arrested, and the looks shouldn't deceive you. He did very, very well in business when he came out of the. He was a very shrewd and sharp businessman. They said, didn't you have a business? How could you not be happy? So he says, listen, I'll tell you the difference between me and you. For you, life was all about amassing wealth, amassing happiness, amassing a sense of satisfaction. And your wife and your kids was all about you feeling good about yourself. But then you lost that. You lost what life was about for you. I understand. You're all depressed. He says, for me, my life was always that I have a purpose. I'm here to serve God. God placed me in this earth for a reason. And I always understood that's what my life is about. And every day of my life, that was a calling I tried living for. He says, yes, I lost so much. And this is very, very terrible for me. I don't have my religion. I don't have my community. I don't have my family, my wife, my kids. I miss them terribly. But what life is essentially all about, I haven't lost that. I'm here for a purpose. And if every single day of my life was about doing what God needs me to do on this earth for my purpose, that is what I'm still doing here today. I haven't lost that. So this attitude that life is not just about finding meaning, but about living with my purpose is a total game changer. Changes everything. Okay. The big question is, so how do we know what our purpose is? Dear friends, I can't give you the secret right now because then you won't come back to the rest of the course. But what I do want to share with you is like this. There's a famous rule in philosophy, even in psychology, there's such a rule. And it goes something like this. You can't read a label from inside the jar. It's a cute little saying. You can't read the label from inside the jar. Or in other words, you can't understand the purpose of a system just from within the system. Or, to make it even more simpler, what's the best way to understand the purpose of something? How do you know what the purpose is? Either you could try to figure it out, and either you're right or you're wrong, or what?
Learn about it.
Learn about it. How do you learn about it? Who knows it? Anything. Who wrote the instructions?
Whoever created us.
The teacher.
The creator. If you don't know what that tool is, go find out who made this. What's his name? Why am I forgetting the name? The guy who discovered gravity. What's his face again? Newton. Isaac Newton. When Isaac Newton discovered that two masses attract, they pull towards each other. He was challenged, and he said, "But that it can't be, because there's nothing connecting. There's nothing in between them that's making them connect. So how could it be?" And Newton said, "Don't ask me to explain to you why. I'm telling you the facts." Facts we could discover from within the system. You observe, no problem. But to really get down to the purpose, you need to go beyond the system. Imagine somebody who never saw Western civilization, who never saw any civilization, and you just parachute them into what was just going on? The World Series game. Tens of thousands of people are here rooting for people, hitting balls, catching balls, jumping on each other, this, that, got to run here, go run there. They could learn everything about the game, and if they're sharp, they could learn all the rules of the game. But could they, for God's sake, understand what in the world, why are we doing this? Why is everybody here drinking beer, watching these people sit here for 3 hours? People have a lot of patience there. Could you explain it? You need something from beyond the system. That's the way it works. Just to demonstrate this to you a little bit. Let's take a very simple appliance. Your toaster oven. A toaster, those little toasters for bread, right? Click it down, click it up, beautiful. And what's the purpose of that appliance? Toast, which means there was a major problem for modern human civilization. How do you toast? How do you toast bread? Came up the great inventors, and they invented the toaster machine, right? The toaster, right? They solved a massive problem. Is that the purpose? Which implies that before this toaster machine came around, nobody was toasting bread, right? There's no way to toast bread, right? How do you toast bread without a machine?
No, they did it differently.
They did. How'd they do it?
They cooked it.
On a frying pan. I don't know. Good old frying pan. Okay, so let me blow your mind for a second. That toaster machine was not created for your needs. It wasn't created because people couldn't toast bread. People were toasting their bread just fine and dandy before that machine was invented, with a good old frying pan, with a little bit of butter. That's the way to toast bread. It's actually better. What are you putting it in a machine? It's dried out. You know who invented it? You know for what purpose? The electric companies invented it. Because the way it works is the plants, the plants that are burning coal to generate electricity, they need to be running 24/7. So they have to be outputting electricity at the same rate 24/7, or else the machines, it needs to be a 24-hour nonstop thing. They had a problem on their hands. People consume a lot of electricity at night, and they were just throwing out electricity. They were losing money because they were running the plants the whole day and nobody was using electricity. So that's the problem. How could we charge people for daytime electricity? So, you know what they came up with? Let's convince the world they need a toaster machines like that. People will start using electricity. We could charge them for electricity, and we're not losing so much money. So you have a machine. You think it's there. So when you use it, you don't even realize what you're using it for. It's a scary thought to think about, no? How well they duped us. Go look it up. What was that?
It's a bait switch.
They didn't even switch it to us. They just didn't tell us what the purpose is. Which means like this. If our existence, if the world's existence is a biological, evolutionary mistake like we were speaking about, okay, then there's no purpose. Don't even look for a purpose, just find meaning. That's nice. That's like a nice bonus. Find meaning. But if it was intentionally created, and if God's purpose and his divine intent and divine design is every single moment and within every single atom and within every single heart that's beating within this world, and he created for a purpose, then there's got to be a purpose, and he would have that purpose. There has to be something outside of the system. There has to be something that came before the system that tells you why is it here. What is this doing here? The good news is we got that. Daniel, text 9, page 56.
First, Torah. The Torah's existence precedes the world by 2,000 years.
Our sages tell us, before the world was created, 2,000 years before even anything was created in this earth, the Torah was created by God. Now, okay, we can now quibble a little bit that time itself is a creation. Right? There was a point in time when there was no time, just endless infinity. Okay, so the commentaries say that 2,000 years doesn't mean literal years, but it means like 2,000 levels, 2,000 dimensions, even beyond reality you have the Torah. Which means like this. Very often you could think that what's religion? What's God's Torah? God's Torah is like this. First, there's a world. First, people exist. First, human flaws exist. Whatever. And then God decides to make a religion. So, okay, religion has to have stuff to keep you busy, stuff to believe, stuff to keep you out of trouble, laws, beliefs, whatever. Okay. So then God wrote a Torah. It's like that we have what's called a religion. And that would be wrong. We have to imagine it. Not imagine it, but this is the truth of it. It's the opposite way around. Nothing exists. Not a single dimension, not a single law of nature, not a single parameter of reality exists. There's no time, there's no space, there's no one, there's no other one, this doesn't equal to, nothing exists. There's no people. Nothing is and nothing has to be anyway. And God says, I have a dream. I have a purpose. I have an intent. I want something. What is that something? I'll capture it in the Torah. It's like this raw desire that is not bound by anything. And then God looks in the Torah and says, let's build a world based on the vision, based on the purpose of the Torah. And then I'm going to make people to inhabit this earth. And not just people as a race, but each individual person. And I'm going to make a Jewish people. I'm going to make every single Jew. It's all built around the purpose that precedes not only your existence, but anything's existence. So 1 second. Torah is not just a way to look and find some enrichment. Torah is not just a way to look and find some nice ideas, some inspiration. It's not recreational. Okay, I can learn some Torah and not learn some Torah. Am I in the mood? Am I not in the mood? This is actually capturing the very essence of purpose of everything and the purpose of my life. We still didn't answer all the questions, but this is what, if we need a definition, a working definition for what is Torah for a Jew, it's not just a nice text, it is a timeless text. Because it comes from before time, before existence. It's the book of purpose. Yes?
As a fairly uneducated religiously person.
Don't put yourself down.
Sure, sorry. But isn't Torah represented by human interpretation? So whatever was written by humans. So how do you know that it's actually what?
You got to come to our other courses. We did 2 courses that address that in full depth. Okay. And if you want, I could share it with you. One was called Judaism Decoded. We also had another course called Book Smart, which goes through the entire Jewish library. We do believe that Torah is a divine gift, even though God has made us partners in the development of Torah, which is a loaded concept. That doesn't mean that Torah is free for us to do whatever we want with it, but rather the analogy, the way Judaism understands it is that the same way, on a biological level, when a woman, when a wife, when a female develops the fetus, develops the spark of life that comes from a male, could you separate the contribution of either one? Can you say, well, the male gave his part, then the wife just does whatever she wants with whatever the man gave him? Or is it an absolute partnership where there's 100% fidelity to each other? That's the partnership between the Jewish people and God in the development of the Torah. It's not like, okay, I could evolve it however I would like as time goes by. It's rather, we are taking what is here and simply developing, unpacking it. But it's always a divine gift. We're always developing something from beyond our own contribution. That's the very short answer, but it's a very good question. But no, it is a divine thing, the Torah. Even the words of the sages and the Talmud, it is divine. Okay. Because of this, dear friends, and I want to conclude with this thought in the last 5 minutes. The role of Torah for a Jew is not something that is meaningful because we have a very old tradition and we learn it because it's so beautiful. Jews have been learning this for 3,000 years, like it's nostalgic and tradition. That's another terrible word, tradition. Because the word tradition implies there's some old, archaic, but really beautiful tradition that we're going to do. It means nothing. It's right, it's meaningless, but it's so nice. This is traditional. Terrible, terrible word. And we don't learn Torah because it's recreational. I have free time anyways, killing time. I find it meaningful. Even that. Why do we Jews learn Torah? Because it's meaningful, or because it's the purpose? If it's meaningful, see, I don't know what any of you are thinking. Maybe you're all thinking that this class is terribly boring. You don't know why you signed up, and terrible idea. You don't find it meaningful, and you probably won't come back next week. That's one option. It's happened before. Don't worry, that's happened. I got to deal with the right. They came, whatever. They felt it was just terrible. Okay, so if you're looking for meaning, either it works for you or it doesn't work for you. But it's not about meaning. This is not recreational. This isn't like an extracurricular. Like, I find it meaningful, so I'll go play pickleball. No. This is. I'm getting in touch with purpose over here. Out of this, I'm floating and I have no clue what I'm doing over here. I'm floating through the abyss and I'm maybe trying to make every single day as meaningful as I could, but I'm not grounded. I have no anchor in life. I don't know what I'm doing over here. Torah becomes the lifeline of the very fabric of life itself. Without Torah, what am I doing? King David writes in Psalms, he writes words which are very dramatic words. If I didn't have Torah, I'm a dead man. I'm dead. Whoa, right? As we would say, stop being so dramatic. Okay, you could say without Torah. No, without Torah, could I really call myself living? There's a saying I remember hearing as a kid. Very cynical saying, but it's very deep. Are you alive because you're alive, or are you alive because you haven't been hit yet by a truck? I know, it's a bit of an awkward saying over here, right? But it's actually very, very deep. You could be alive because I'm alive. I'm facing life. I know what life is and I'm doing life. Or you could be alive just like circumstantial. Why am I alive? I don't know. I woke up this morning. I'm alive. Why am I here? I have no clue. What are you going to do today? I don't know. Are you needed? I don't know. It's a very scary thought. It's also a very empowering thought. We have to be alive. King David's saying, if I don't have Torah, I could wake up. I could be circumstantially alive, breathing. But am I alive? Am I living life? Is this real? And I want to conclude with this little quote, and then we get to end on time. Nice big bonus. In the 2nd century of the Common Era, it was in the decades after the Roman conquest over Judea. They destroyed Jerusalem, destroyed the Holy Temple. And originally, the Romans came after the Jews, not as a religious persecution, but more as geopolitics, good old conquest, good old, take over the world. That was the Roman ambition. But it slowly shifted, as anti-Semitism very often does, into a full-on religious persecution, where they were anti-Judaism in a terrible, it was a terrible time of oppression for the Jewish people. A time of the great sages, a time of the development of Judaism. At that time, what the Romans did was they said any of the major activities that promotes Jewish life and Jewish activity, if we catch you doing it, you are being sent to the gallows. Right? That's how it works. You're dead. One of the great sages of the time, his name was Rabbi Akiva. One of the most greatest sages who've ever lived. And Rabbi Akiva, he taught Torah daily to the Jewish people. And when this happened, he continued his Torah classes. He paid for his life for it, by the way. Rabbi Akiva was murdered by the Romans. They tortured him to death in a terrible, brutal way. We have to just remember, if you go on vacation to Rome, you see the great, what's it called? The great Colosseum. These are not our friends. They built the Colosseum with our Jewish money that they robbed. These are not our friends. This is not friendly territory for us. Okay, just good to remember that. They murdered our Rabbi Akiva. Let's read text 10. Give us a go. There you go. Richard, our last text for today. Text 10, page 59.
All right. Once the wicked Roman government issued a decree forbidding the Jews from studying Torah, Papas ben Yehuda came upon Rabbi Akiva, who was publicly gathering groups and teaching Torah. He said to him, Akiva, aren't you afraid of the authorities? Rabbi Akiva replied, let me tell you a parable. A fox was walking along a river and saw a fish darting back and forth. He said to them, why are you fleeing? They answered, from the nets that people have cast for us. Said the fox, why don't you come up onto dry land and live with me, just as your ancestors lived with mine? The fish said to him, are you the one they call the cleverest of animals? You're not clever, you're foolish. If you're in danger even here in the place that gives us life, how much more so if we leave it for a place where we can't survive? The same is true for us. Rabbi Akiva concluded, if we're at risk even while studying Torah, the source of our life, as it says, for it is your life and the length of your days, Deuteronomy, how much worse would it be if we abandon it?
Torah is our life-saving, our very lifeline to what living is really all about. And Rabbi Akiva says, if I die studying Torah, then so be it. If you want me to leave water and go on dry land, then I'm for sure a dead man. Dear friends, a good class finishes with more questions than answers. And this class did that. I can't say what we've done is, in the search for an answer, we've answered a little bit, but going further, only uncovered even more mysteries. So what is that meaning of life? What's the real purpose of life? And how does Torah teach it to us? Well, dear friends, you're in the right course. Looking forward to seeing you all next week for lesson number 3, Meaning in the Mundane. Let us begin the quest for what is the purpose of life. Dear friends, thank you all so much for joining. Have a wonderful evening. And just by the way, talking about purpose, the food in the back was made for a very specific purpose.
Made from what?
It was made for a very specific purpose. I asked the one who made it. It was good, right?
Well, who made it?
Mushki.
Yes, it was very good.
Very good. And she made it with a very specific purpose. So, enjoy it on your way out. Thank you all so much for joining. If you have any thoughts or questions or rebuttals,